With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
You've discovered your link to GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast. Now, here's your host, GoPowerCat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the PowerCat Questions podcast. A little bit late this week. We moved it back a day. I hope you're doing okay. No football game, so we're kind of backfilling with our content, but this is the original podcast in which you ask us questions at Wabash Station, and we answer. I am Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, and Ryan Gilbert. My sidekicks are not at my side. They're facing me on Zoom. We're sponsored by The Fridge. I think I got a text alert from The Fridge. They're having some kind of sale. Let's see if I... No, it wasn't them. But it's kind of nice. Whenever they have a sale, I get a text alert. Sign up for their app. Or go download their app, I should say. And you can do your online shopping and pull in and get your liquor loaded. Get loaded liquor to get loaded. I don't know where I'm going with that. Guys, how are we doing today? Are we good?
Good.
I'm a little bit under the weather, and I can't quite tell you what's going on, but I just kind of feel blah.
Can you taste things?
You know, I haven't eaten anything today. That's a good point. No. I'm drinking water.
You smell yourself?
Smell good. Well, ish. I wonder what's happened to like toothpaste sales and deodorant sales in the pandemic, because a lot of people are just staying at home, and you hear people say, yeah, I keep forgetting to brush my teeth, but then when I go out, I'm wearing a mask, so what's the matter? And I'm like, well, your teeth might fall out, but other than that, nothing matters. I
feel personally attacked.
I know.
I have not been brushing my teeth as much as I should as a dentist child.
I know. That just shows how we get out of our regular habits. I was just hearing someone speculating that church attendance will never be the same, that you break habits, it's typical that people will stop doing it. I'd be very interested to see how all this impacts our society. I'm glad you're here listening to the PowerCat Questions podcast. We're going to talk a little football, a little basketball, a little badminton. Okay, we're not going to talk badminton. Gills, hold on. Do we have any badminton questions? No? Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. Our segment sponsors are Tanner's and the High Low. Make sure you visit them when you're in Aggieville. Wonderful people, wonderful food, wonderful places. I miss them. Guys, the Rona is raging all over the country right now. It's impacting sports. The SEC's down 4 games as of right now for the weekend. K-State football reported 9 new cases among, as Chris Kleiman said, they're younger guys. They're scout guys. Zach, you want to share your theory on that?
If you look at the calendar and when they may have been infected, you were looking at about last weekend, which happened to be Halloween. And with all these guys not being key guys, as Chris Kleiman said, they're a bunch of young guys, like freshmen, scout team guys. They weren't on the trip at West Virginia. So that's probably why we're seeing, all the ones are having to play against all the other ones in practice so far. So kind of interesting to me that's where the infections are coming from.
If you were a regular player on the team, like a guy that went on the trip to West Virginia, and a week later you find out all the guys that stayed behind went to a party or whatever and got infected, how pissed would you be that they might have threatened your entire season just because they wanted to go to a party? I'd be furious.
Those guys should be running stairs every day once they get healthy.
I was going to say, man, you're cruel. Get the Rona, you can't breathe, and Coach Zach's making you run stairs. Wow. Yeah, it's bad, but not as bad as the track team. What, 20,
That's
22, 26
20,
cases? Something in the 20s. And you know what? That's hardcore evidence of something, guys, that you can't outrun the Rona. Yeah. See, I got that sympathetic laugh.
Yeah.
You can't
They did go to a Halloween party. That was reported in the paper. That was from a Halloween party. So maybe they had some more fun with the football team.
Well, good. Never knew the track team was wild and crazy, but apparently they are. Man,
I just want to know what their costumes were. Did they wear a costume that was more susceptible to getting coronavirus? I feel like if you went as Joe Exotic, you might catch it.
Might catch more than the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you go as like a bank robber? So you had a mask on. I mean, you can build the coronavirus into your costume.
Scary mask.
Yeah, I don't know.
Got to wear the scary mask.
Maybe everyone went as the slutty version of the coronavirus.
But speaking of all these canceled games, ESPN looks really smart for going to the Masters or College Game Day, huh? Yeah. All you guys hated that. Oh, it was all upset, but there's no football games for them to go to now. And we're going to have a nice golf tournament on this nice bye week for K-State. Very excited.
It's going to be interesting to see how the conferences respond to this. I mean, you're getting into the area now where you got too many games that need to be rescheduled to get them all packed in. So, I don't know. I just don't know what they're going to do with this. And Zach, you mentioned before we started they might have a pause in the season. I just don't know. I mean, does everyone who's playing by the rules have to pause? And, like if Iowa State and K-State are good to go, do they, what a mess. What a honking mess. But if they end up canceling the season, guys, the Big 12 looks brilliant. They started early. They got in 7 games or whatever it is for everyone. And they're in pretty good situation right now.
I think what the Big 12 deserves credit for is they built in these bye weeks every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks. They have a pause to where, hey, every program is essentially shut down or they can be shut down if needed for COVID. So as long as the guys are taking everything seriously, still taking their precautions seriously, not going to parties, not going out to Aggieville, not doing anything stupid, there's an extremely high likelihood of the season continuing. So I think that, I don't know what the SEC or ACC's scheduling theory was this year or how they built, certain off weeks in, but the Big 12 looks really smart because Baylor is the only school that's really had a conference game canceled. Right. I mean, Oklahoma State's part of it, but they weren't responsible for that cancellation. So the fact that we've only had one cancellation for the entire season and we're 2/3 the way through, man, the Big 12 looks pretty good.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You know what else looks pretty good? Ryan Gilbert reading the questions from Wabash Station. Here we go.
First question of the podcast is from GCKSU Rules. How big of a missed opportunity was this game?
Just want to say before we start, I'm not sure if he was new or not, but if so, welcome, GCKSU Rules. I don't remember ever saying that on the podcast. So.
It's
huge. Welcome.
This was huge and welcome. Just and only because it's kind of like you get the lottery and you miss by one number or something. I mean, you had everything lined up and you just didn't get it finished. It's just really unfortunate. This was a great opportunity for K-State to shock the world in some ways and get out in front of this conference race and be in the driver's seat going down the home stretch. But they couldn't finish it off. They just weren't quite good enough. It would all, like I said on a daily delivery, it would all been a bonus. It would all been extra. All been fantastic if they could have gotten that done, but they couldn't.
Yeah, like you said, Fitz, they were going to be in the driver's seat had they won. Now they're in the passenger seat. So they're still in the front of the car, but they have to do some work to make sure they're still there by the end of the year. And, if they win out, their odds of getting into the Big 12 championship game should be good. There is a really random scenario where West Virginia ends up 4th, and that would keep them out in a 3-way tie between OU and Oklahoma State. But, they still essentially control their own destiny. And I think that there are, I think it's possible. It's going to be hard, but I think it's possible if they're able to reset here, go up and get a win at Iowa State. And I think the momentum's kind of back in their court for going to Baylor and Texas. So, it was a big missed opportunity losing to Oklahoma State. And you had multiple chances throughout the game to get it done. And it just kind of fell apart. And I think that after that game, Oklahoma State probably feels pretty lucky. And, now they're the ones in the driver's seat. So, K-State's not completely out, but it would have been, a giant shot in the arm had they won.
Next question from Beefy Panda. Is the offensive lack of adjustments in game and across games due to coaching, not enough playmakers, or the offensive line?
Well, I would challenge anyone out there to try to call plays successfully for this offense right now. I mean, your receivers are underperforming. You've got a true freshman quarterback, a true freshman running back who is now being schemed against, which is such a huge compliment for Deuce Vaughn, or maybe it's an insult to the rest of the offense that they're not worried about anyone else. I mean, your tight end is out. I mean, calling plays isn't magical. Like this play is going to work every time, or, I mean, you got to have the guys to run the plays. So, I mean, yeah, they just don't have enough offensive weapons right now. And honestly, this offense isn't very good. I mean, when you're at a rebuild offensive line with a freshman quarterback, they should be worse than they are. They really should be. They should be tragically bad. And we're seeing, young players have to learn in the middle of games. It's going to be a difficult process, and I compliment K-State for staying in the game. And if they'd kicked a couple extra points, we would have gone to overtime in that game.
I think at the beginning of the season, I think we all would have pointed to the offensive line as being, that would be the lack of, success for the offense. But I think at this point, the offensive line is at least serviceable enough to where they aren't a liability. And I think that the fact that they don't have any playmakers is really, like you mentioned, Fitz, you can't really call plays if you don't have the guys to perform. And if the guys can't make plays, it doesn't really matter what you're calling if it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the fact that you're losing playmakers. You don't have enough playmakers that have stepped up. So you're just kind of in this awkward place where you have Will Howard and you have Deuce Vaughn, and that's basically it. Briley Moore's gone. You haven't had a receiver all year. Maybe Phillip Brooks a little bit, but most of his success isn't even from the offense. So I don't know. It's just, you need more guys, I think. I don't think you can, as much as questionable as the play calling and the adjustments have been there absolutely are problems there. I still think it comes down to a lack of playmakers on the field.
You guys pretty much nailed it. You got a true freshman quarterback, and we've talked about it a ton on here with the struggles they're having at the wideout position. You got a young offensive line, and then you've got a play caller who, maybe has made a few questionable calls here or there, but I don't think you can really point your finger at one player or even one position group more than the others. I think it's really just a culmination of, K-State really just not being that good of a team overall. Of course, they've had some injuries, but they're young. They're learning a lot this season, but I don't think you can really pinpoint one thing. It's just everything kind of coming together. And we're finally starting to see who the real K-State is at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, they're able to cover it up with special teams and defense, and if they, let's be honest, if they get a big play out of special teams, they probably win that game Saturday. And again, the offense gets a pass, but we kind of do see that they are short on tools. And look, for all that happened bad at the end of the game, the fact that Will Howard had that devastating fumble returned for a touchdown and then led the team back down, back down the field for a touchdown is a good sign. It's a good sign. It's part of growth.
Next question from KSU Man. How much do we miss Joaquin Gill?
A lot. I mean, Joaquin was one of my favorite receivers because he was so reliable, ran good patterns, was fast and quick enough to make stuff happen after the catch. Yeah, that one hurt. That one hurt a lot more than losing Josh Youngblood in the passing game.
Yeah.
So, that one hurt a lot.
Was Joaquin left after the TCU game, right? Was it TCU or was it KU?
It was a home game.
Before.
Yeah, it was Tech, wasn't it?
Or was it Tech?
Yeah, I think it was Tech. He broke
It's the same game as Skyler.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So I think that he probably, had he played, against TCU, KU, I think that he probably would have emerged as the top guy.
Absolutely.
He probably would have been Will Howard's top target at this point, and he would have been somebody solid for the offense to go to. And I don't know if you beat West Virginia, but if he's on the field against Oklahoma State, maybe you win that game. Maybe you win. So I think that just any loss of a wide receiver. I mean, even Malik Knowles getting whatever he did, we have no clue what he did. He was just standing on the bench late in the game when he could have been in. I don't know what happened to him, but even losing a guy like him hurts, as little and spotty as he is. So Joaquin was pretty consistent, before he got injured, and I think that he could have been a guy that Will, grew a connection with and became kind of a go-to, but right now nobody's really a go-to, and I think that Joaquin could have been that.
Next question from Liquid Sasquatch. How much does this Joe Klanderman led defense compare with last year's led by Hazleton? Maybe I'm wrong, but this year seems as good or better.
I agree. And a big reason why, and I don't know if this is credit to Klanderman or the players, when you've got a 4-man front that has a 2-deep, that's another important part of this. They've got about 7-8 guys that are playing consistently or more up front, and they can get pressure on a regular basis without linebackers and safeties coming and corners coming. When you can get that kind of push out of your front four, everything else the defensive coordinator does looks better. And that's honestly been something K-State's lacked for a while. And for the most part, they also have corners. Justin Gardner was out this week, but corners that can cover without getting a bunch of help. That just makes everything work a lot better. They can, really just focus on tackling and doing their job when that front four is beating people, and they can't just go pick up an easy pass on the outside. So, credit Klanderman. That first game was worrisome, and ever since then, guys, I think he's called great games. And what they did to Oklahoma State, even though the Cowboys were depleted, they're still running a pretty effective offensive system that has been proven. They shut that offensive system down with the exception of one drive there in the third quarter when they were left on the field way too long by an ineffective offense of their own. So I thought it was a great performance by the defense, just amazing.
Joe Klanderman absolutely deserves credit. He's done a great job, like you said, since that first game. But with that defensive front, I think that he deserves more credit than anybody. The fact that Drew Wiley can step up and become a beast after, losing Trey Deshawn, losing Jordan Mitty after last year. I think that's the most impressive thing to me is that, that was a position before the season that we talked about that we were extremely worried about. And, they've probably overperformed at this point. And then you have guys like the cornerbacks, Justin Gardner, Echo Boydo. They've stepped up, and I'd say they're overperforming. I think secondary is probably the biggest question marks, but, Jerron McPherson stepped up. He's been good. Ross Elder's probably the one that you point at right now that's playing that you wish you might have somebody else a little bit better there. But, Sullivan and Hughes, you're happy with. Defensive ends, you're happy with. I think the players deserve just as much credit as anybody else. They've stepped up, and the way that Joe Klanderman's been able to put the pieces together and call good games has been really impressive. And I don't know if it's better than Hazleton last year. I think that Klanderman got a really good hand dealt to him this year, and he was able to make adjustments after that first game and take advantage.
For me, if I were to, not know that there was a change at the defensive coordinator position, I wouldn't really be able to tell much of a difference. So that's kind of the answer to that question for me. I don't know if he's done better or worse. I would say if it's anything, it's been a little better, but there hasn't really been anything too much different that I've been able to see. If I've been living under a rock, I wouldn't really tell a difference. So I'd say it's probably as good as last year.
Yeah, and if you're a Michigan State fan, you're questioning the hire of Scotty Hazelton right now. But in this pandemic season, it's just been impossible to install new systems. I can't imagine what he's going through up there at Michigan State.
Next question from Itane BB. It appears our tight end availability is in danger. Can we say this is due to COVID? We are forced to cancel the. Pardon me. Can we say due to COVID, we are forced to cancel the next game, which would give us 3 weeks of rest, and it will allow us to face Baylor, who is supposedly an easier opponent than Iowa State?
That's not how Kleiman's wired. I mean, from the very start, he's been, let's try to have enough guys to play. Guys have got to step up. I think he's recognized there's more value in playing these games than worrying about we're shorthanded and at a disadvantage. He's seen value in, hey, we don't have any corners, so we've got to start Justin Gardner and Echo Boydo at Oklahoma. Oh, my God, they're good. He's found value in the roster being depleted and giving more experience to guys. Yeah, you got 2 now injuries. On top of all the COVID crap, you now have legitimate injuries beginning to etch into your roster. Sucks, man. Your 2 of your top 3 tight ends are down, and you like to play 3 at times. You're not going to be able to do it. I mean, Connor Fox has been on the field now. In fact, he was the target of that long ball by Will Howard. Another wrinkle to that makes it even more bizarre. They threw into double coverage to an unproven tight end. But, that's not how Kleiman. If Kleiman has 53 or whatever the number is and all the positions allocated, has enough bodies, he wants to go to Iowa State because he sees value in playing the games and finding who's ready to play, because it's really not about this season. It's about the long game for him, and he's been pretty clear about that. It's about the process, and the process needs games. So I really like that about Chris Kleiman. He's not looking to duck out. He's not trying to pull a Wisconsin and say, hey, I know we don't meet the threshold, but we don't want to play. He wants to play, man. He wants whomever has to take the field to get the experience of playing, because that will pay off in 22 and 23 and on the line when these guys are upperclassmen.
I think that K-State would go to Iowa State if they had 0 tight ends. I think they'd figure out a way to play. I mean, look at Jackson Dean, who played on Saturday. He had the most catches of any player for the team, and I know he's not a tight end, but he's a fullback. They kind of interchange there, so they'll find guys to get involved in the offense if they need that tight end there. So I'm not worried about it. And, I don't know what the status of Briley is, but we'll learn more next week. And I think that the team's hopeful that he could be back. And, if he's back, that's a big boost. And you just lose, Sammy Wheeler for the season. That's it. So, I don't think that we can count out Briley at this point, especially with a bye week. He's got, he'll have 3 weeks of rest himself going into the Iowa State game. So, I think that, K-State will find a way to play. And, if all of these infections that happen this week, as long as those are guys that aren't critical members of the team, I think they'll go. And I think it's beneficial to play. I think that, look at Oklahoma State. I know that some of their holdouts weren't necessarily COVID related, but look, you play that game, you get into it an hour before, and Tylan Wallace is out. I know it's not COVID, but look, anything can happen. You can pick up an advantage like that. And I think that's half of the reason that K-State was in that game. they lose their biggest wide receiver. So, I think taking advantage, going up there, playing all your games as they come, I think that there's value there that, you might be able to hit a team that, they might have something pop up themselves.
Pretty much with you guys here. You touched on it, Fitz, how Klieman wants to play. And, it doesn't matter really. We've seen it here with K-State. They're going to move guys around accordingly to fit, their needs, within their roster. So they're going to find, maybe some linemen who have never even caught a football. And maybe there's no even intentions of them catching a football in a game, but you stick them out, outside of the, the tackle, right? Yeah. And then you just that there's your tight end, right? So we have Lenners, they've got Lenners, and they've got Deneen, like you talked about. So I think they'll be okay moving forward.
I know he's over around 300 pounds now, but you could move Logan Long out there to be a blocking tight end because that's what he was last year. He knows what to do at least. It'll be interesting. Yeah. That'd be a big tight end.
Can you play tight end, Fitz?
That was my spot, tight end and linebacker. Yeah.
There you go.
I was really hurt that he picked Kellis over me.
I actually thought it was hilarious. That's another quarterback that they're moving to tight end because Bill wanted Kellis to play quarterback. Pretty sure a couple seasons.
That's right. And why does everyone want Kellis to play? I mean, why Kellis? I'm not trying to attack him as a non-athlete, but he doesn't strike me as an athlete. I guess I just did. I love Kellis. He's a great guy, but I'm not throwing him on 3rd and 5. I'm not throwing a pass to him. I'm just not doing it. Well, if I'm throwing the pass, it won't be completed anyhow. But anyhow, that's not the point. The point is, why Kellis? I feel like the rest of us are being shunned by the coaches of Kansas State University as potential assets to this program. Gills, you could be a receiver. You look like a receiver. You look like a guy to get out there and run a good pattern, block downfield, and not be very fast. You look like a K-State receiver.
Are you saying he looks like Landry Weber?
Yeah, that's
pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It's about right.
Maybe we should be the ones that ask the question, hey, it looks like you're really depleted at this position. Just bait him into it.
I know. Hey,
maybe you can play.
What about me as an offensive lineman, even though I'd get hurt prior to the snap of the ball? Oh, well. Okay, I'm over it. Kellis, you can play tight end if you want. Man, it sucks. Okay, next question.
All righty. From KNet, he's got the last question of the first half. Is Iowa State a rivalry?
Yes. Yes, I don't know why people are shying away from this. Yes. The fan bases don't like each other. I don't care what other measurements you have. When the fan bases are bickering all the time, yeah, it's a rivalry. And it's a kind of fun one because it's like that meme of Robin pointing to each other. Is it Robin? Batman?
Spider-Man. Come on.
I got the red outfit right. Spider-Man pointing to himself. I don't understand that, but, hey. It's a rivalry. I hated the Farmageddon advertising trophy, but I would like to have a trophy. Let's have our own little. Did
you like my proposal?
What was it? Tractor?
Yeah. Get a working tractor and paint it like the Victory Bell between USC and UCLA. Do that, and then have the winning coach or whoever ride it around like Marshawn Lynch with the medical cart.
I'm not real sure how you're going to get the tractor between the two towns, but hey, let's.
Put it in the equipment truck.
Strap it on top. Oh.
And KNet asked he in that thread we were talking about the trophy. He mentioned that he'd like a Trice Robinson trophy, which I think would be really cool. But like I said, I think that Farmageddon is a silly name to associate with a trophy that would have so much historical and important significance to it. I think that Farmageddon, it's a funny meme. I mean, that's all it is. I don't think the schools will ever recognize that it is an official name of anything.
I think Iowa State is. Doesn't Iowa State use it?
I don't know if they do. I know K-State doesn't use it.
I think it's great as a name.
I think it's
funny.
I think it's funny, but I think it's also a meme. I mean, it's like the $5 broken bits of chair trophy between Minnesota and Nebraska. It was a joke from Faux Polini on Twitter. It started as a joke, and now it's not really. It was never recognized, and it's not a real thing. So, how much shelf life does Farmageddon have? Will it die out? Will it continue? I mean, it's just. I mean, it's a name. It's a name play off of the movie Armageddon, which is just it's hilarious to me. It's the end. It's like the end of the world, and it's two schools that have little significance in the college football world, and they're going to save us all. I mean,
hey, that might be true next weekend. K-State, Iowa State might be the only college football game played. Farmageddon on the national stage.
Well, let's hope Bedlam gets played. Come on.
Gills, you're a young guy. You predate the birth of Farmageddon, which is more than 10 years ago now, isn't it? That goes back to when they were playing at Arrowhead. What are your thoughts on Farmageddon?
I don't know much about the movie Armageddon I don't know. I'm not cultured in that manner, but I think the biggest I think the product here is just KU not being good. What if they're a top-notch program? Are we going to be maybe I think Iowa State's going to be a competitive team with K-State, but are they going to be a rival? I don't know. So I'm not informed on the subject of Armageddons and stuff like that. So I don't know if I should say something I shouldn't, but I don't know if it's the biggest rivalry, but I think it's probably, it's right up there with KU at this point, just because of the Jayhawks struggles.
I like the idea that K-State, Iowa State can be like Kansas, Missouri basketball was. And then you look at K and go, yeah, you're not really our rival in this sport because you're not good enough. I don't know.
Here's a measuring stick for a rivalry game. If you're K-State or a K-State fan and you lose to KU, are you mad about losing or are you mad that you lost to KU? You're mad that you lost to KU. You're mad that you lost to KU. If you lose to Iowa State, are you mad you lost to Iowa State or are you mad you lost? Because I think most K-State fans are going to be mad you lost. It doesn't matter that it's Iowa State. That's where I kind of draw the line. I think it's a kind of rivalry. But at the end of the day, it's not KU. You're not going to be mad that you lost to Iowa State. I mean, you're not going to be completely upset by the fact that you hate Iowa State and they got us, and you're mad about who it was. I mean, it's like losing to West Virginia or losing to Texas Tech. You're mad you lost. You're not mad who you lost to because you hate the school. You're mad that you lost to them because you think you're better than them. So that's my measuring stick on it. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think Farmageddon's just a silly rivalry. It's an internet meme. It's for laughs between the two schools. I don't think that the two schools truly hate each other like K-State and KU. That's just me. I think that it's a couple ag schools. It's like K-State and Oklahoma State. It's a friendly rivalry between two land-grant schools.
Okay.
Don't let somebody on Twitter create havoc.
It was Kevin Haskin of the Capital Journal just came up with the name in a column. So I love it. I think it's real. I hate Iowa State. I mean, when Matt Campbell's put in the College Football Hall of Fame this season for winning 8 games again, I'll celebrate with him. I mean, because that's a big accomplishment to have a mediocre coach in the College Football Hall of Fame. But, I'm good with this rivalry. I like it. I'm still bitter from the 1990s, and you guys won't know this reference, but K-State was winning at Iowa State. It's a bitterly cold day. K-State is going to escape with a victory, and then in the second half, an Iowa State student makes the ultimate sacrifice. In a freezing cold day, he streaks across the field. Naked running in freezing cold. is probably the most accomplished Iowa State alumnus ever. He ended up.
Sure he graduated?
No, but that's close enough. He ended up getting pinned up against the wall, like a rock wall, and he was naked, and it was cold. And you know what was shoved up against this freezing rock wall? He was arrested and hauled off the field. And after that, Iowa State played really good football and won that game. And that's when I knew Kansas State football doesn't respond well to naked men. I thought, that's my school. That's it. That's it. That's my school. But Iowa State, you throw a naked man into the mix, they get fired up and win a football game. Farmageddon. It's real.
The Power Cat Podcast will be right back.
Picture this nightmare scenario. You're hosting friends for the big game. It's neck and neck in the fourth quarter, and suddenly you realize you're out of drinks. You start to sweat. Your friends start to turn on you. You're forced to go on a last-second drink run and end up missing the game-winning touchdown while in line. Terrifying, isn't it? Luckily, you can avoid the drama with Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits, then get them delivered right to your watch party. Compare prices across multiple stores in your area, find the best deals on game day drinks, and get back to armchair quarterbacking from, you guessed it, your armchair. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
We now send it back to the Power Cat Podcast.
Welcome back to the Power Cat Questions Podcast. We're sponsored by the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Our segment sponsors are Tanner's and the High Low. Please support all of them when you're in town. And I hope you come back to town for that. God, the next game is December 5th at home? What? This is weird. Off week, 2 road games. Final home game. Strange. That's what football's like when you got 5 conference road games instead of 5 home games. But that's the season it is. And now we're going to persist with this podcast of sharing our wealth of knowledge about K-State sports. I don't know that there's a wealth. I'm not sure there's really a wealth of knowledge, but we'll go ahead and ask some more questions. Here's Gills.
First question of the second half from Claws Out, Balls Out. Are we projecting what we want Will Howard to be rather than just acknowledging what he is? I don't mind optimism, but calling him the future seems premature with what we've seen.
Well, I mean, someone's the future. It's might be Will Howard. He's getting a big jump up on the competition. I don't know. I think trying to promote him in that manner is good for the program. I mean, if you're Chris Kleiman, you want this kid to believe this isn't just a one-year thing, that he has an opportunity to grow into the starting quarterback. You want to inspire him. He may not be that guy. But he shows some signs of being pretty good. Folks, being a true freshman playing at this level is difficult. Being a true freshman quarterback at this level is amazing that he's doing as well as he is. Complain all you want about Will Howard, but without 125 yards of rushing on Saturday, K-State's offense doesn't do a damn thing. It looks awful. I mean, and the problem with that is he gets more beat up every time he has to run the ball, and then he maybe has more troubles throwing the ball, and everyone thinks he sucks. He played his butt off. He made some mistakes. He made some bad mistakes in that game. But without that rushing, it doesn't matter. The mistakes only stood out because he put them in a position to win with all that running yardage. I'm just quit trying to read too much in this. What message do you want to send your player? Hey, you're not really the future. We don't see much future in you, but go ahead and play. Or, kid, let's work on this. You might be the starting quarterback here for years. I'm into that.
I don't get the whole Will Howard hate at this point. Yeah, K-State's lost some games, but you know what? He's kept K-State in games. He's only started, 5 games? I don't even know if that's right. But he's a true freshman. If he's not the future at this point, who is the future? Let me know. I mean, what? You guys are being so critical on Will Howard for as young as he is and how impressive he's been coming in this crazy season, having success. He wins his first road start at TCU. It's his first start ever. I mean, give the kid a break. He's fine. He's fine. And if you don't think he's the future, tell me who he is. Who is the future for this team? Because right now it's Will Howard. I don't care who you think it is. It's Will Howard. It's Deuce Vaughn. That's the offense for the next 4 years. Get used to it.
Look, Jake Rubley might be really good, but you know what he's going to be next year? A true freshman quarterback. So are you calling for K-State to start a true freshman quarterback because the true freshman quarterback this season isn't getting it done? It doesn't add up to me. Jake Rubley might be the future, but right now, the card you have in your hand is Will Howard. You just don't know what the future holds. You want to promote this guy so he really understands it. And all I need to know is that the team really is behind him. I mean, if you haven't heard Noah Johnson's comments at the end of, I put him at the end of the postgame podcast, go listen to him. That's a senior offensive lineman, a true believer in this young quarterback. Is he perfect? No. Does he have lots to learn? Hell yes. He's 19 years old playing quarterback in the Big 12. I can't even fathom having that kind of responsibility when I was in my first semester of college. Granted, it's his second semester, sort of. But in that first year of college, anyone saying, hey, Fitz, you're now the editor of the Collegian. What? It's crazy to think the amount of responsibility that's being put on him, and to hear fans badmouth him because he makes mistakes. It honestly bothers me. I understand fair criticism that needs to, know not to throw into the double coverage, needs to be patient, needs to understand how to run the 2-minute offense. If you want to talk the analysis of his play and what he needs to fix, I'm in. But he sucks. That's not analysis. That's not helpful. That's absurd. It's absurd. K-State is 4-3, and it would be his what? Yeah, it would be his fifth start. He's 5 starts in, right? Yeah, TCU was game 3. No, TCU was game 4. So he's 4 starts in.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Ryan Wallace, our recruiting or football guy, mentioned a good point, how he's not supposed to really even be a runner. So like we talked about earlier, everything going on at the wideout position, the offensive play calling, the offensive line, it's all coming together. And I don't know if this is the real Will Howard, that if he is the starter for 4 years, that will, that style of play that we'll even be used to seeing. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's too early to hit the panic button on the young kid like we've been talking about.
I wouldn't mind them. One thing I wouldn't mind the coaches trying. They don't seem interested in running a Wildcat quarterback. Now, I don't even know who that is right now. I mean,
did they even run it last year?
I don't think so. No. And with that series they kept running over and over, the almost triple option with the running back, a receiver in motion, and quarterback keeping it, I'd like to see it. Just, if you're going to run the ball, put a guy back there that's built to run the ball. Maybe it's Trotter, that's not really explosive,
Burns.
But you need someone that's going to be really sure-handed and, big enough to be handing the ball off. Couldn't be Mosey or Vaughn. They'd have to reach over their head to hand off the ball. But yeah, I mean, you're depleted at receivers, so that gets difficult, but try it. Just, I don't know. What do I know?
Nothing. Me and my roommate were talking, like, why not run the option? Like what they did with Klein and stuff. I mean, something.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, maybe Jaron Lewis has they carve out something for him to do with his offense. Give Will some snaps off. I'm not sure.
They have ran the option, though, and I wouldn't say it's been incredibly successful. Mm-hmm. It's been successful at times, but then other times you have Howard, pitching it back out of bounds. So,
yeah,
I mean, I don't want to harp on, a single mistake like that, but they have ran the option a little bit. So just wanted to say that.
Next question from Exhausted Nihilist. Care to speculate what kind of minor injury our QB might have that affects his throws? I'm sure you guys can rely on your D1 QB experience to the extent as most of us. Wah, bashers. See what I did there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, I think it's probably, just that shoulder. When you get tackled, you go down on that shoulder, you get sacked. That's the most common thing with a quarterback is you get a compression in that shoulder socket. What's that, AC joint or whatever, but that's the most common irritation for a quarterback is when you land on it or, as we saw with Skyler, you put your arm up as you fall, you can really jam that joint. And so that's through the history of K-State football, his passes right now look a lot like Jonathan Beasley when he was struggling with it and Jake Waters when he was struggling with it. And there's a lot of guys in between that have struggled with shoulder problems. Grant Gregory, everyone thought Grant couldn't throw the ball in that year that he came in as a transfer. There's a lot of similarities there. There are a lot of similarities, actually. But he was a warrior and a leader, and he helped the team win despite having an injured shoulder. I don't know if Will's shoulder's dinged up, but he doesn't throw the ball nearly with the same velocity or philosophy. Velocity of his high school tape. He just doesn't. So something's going on, whether it's confidence or injury, but this is what they got to deal with. And he's the best quarterback that they have available.
Yeah, and just kind of going off your point, when was the last time a K-State quarterback didn't have to have some sort of surgery in the offseason on his throwing arm? I mean, it's crazy to me how, we talk about K-State basketball players and their legs. I want to talk about K-State quarterbacks and their injuries. You hear at the end of the season, oh yeah, Jake Waters, he was injured the whole season and he was able to do that. Say with Jesse Ertz, a whole bunch of these guys just getting banged up and having to keep playing, but then have to have surgery. I feel like didn't Skyler early on have to have something too? So, I feel like this is just, I'm not saying that there's any conspiracy here with the field or, just other than just bad luck. But that's just what it's like being a quarterback, and you got to play through stuff. And
when you run your quarterback, you expose your quarterback to more hits. That's just the simple truth of what K-State football's been. And they're finding out this year you've got to run the quarterback to free things back up because they're taking away Deuce Vaughn.
Next question from Pain Train 95. I totally get the idea of recruiting athletes and then honing their skills to certain positions. However, why do we recruit quarterbacks that can't throw and basketball players that can't shoot? Are we that desperate for talent?
Will can throw. Go put in his recruiting tape. He can throw the ball. I know he's having struggles, but on a windy day, he overthrew a tight end down the middle of the field, but the ball was out there. The accuracy wasn't there, but there's an arm in there. Just he's banged up. He's just not playing with confidence. I'm not worried about Will Howard at all. I think Will Howard's going to become a pretty good quarterback. A great one? I don't know. But I think he's going to be pretty good. He's smart. He's diligent. He wants to be better. He works hard. If he didn't work hard, he wouldn't be playing right now. I can tell you that. I'm just not worried about it.
Next question from Bring On the Mob. Bring On the Mob is a new member here at the site, so welcome to Wildlife Station. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for your question. I'll go with basketball on the bye week. Can you give your thoughts on Logan Lander's commitment and how you see him and Davion Bradford working together in the future? More of a Twin Towers approach or as subs for one another at center? Also, 1 to 10 rating on what you think the chance of K-State landing Aminu Muhammad is.
Well, we'll let you handle a lot of this, Gil, since you're kind of the basketball guy. But, you got to have more than one big guy. If you have two, you can play them together. You can rotate them. I think it's a really nice pickup there because they're kind of different guys. Bradford's such a true post. A rim protector at 7 feet and a big presence. He's big-bodied. And then Landers gives you someone more lean and can run up and down and shoot it. I like this a lot. And I don't think they're going to get Muhammad. I just don't. I think as this gets, more and more teams that have a scholarship will come rushing in when they realize a player at that level is available. But if they can, it'd be huge. It'd be enormous to get him for a year and a half.
Obviously, I think Davion, Bradford is the future, but you've also got to mention, Carlton Lingard as well as Casey Zagwu. I've still got to learn that one here. So it's not just going to be Bradford competing with Landers, but I don't know if that's something that we've seen a whole lot out of a Bruce Weber, offense. Like they typically like to go 4 guards, like we've seen that with, guys like Shane Southwell and Nino Williams, guys like that in the past. So I don't know if the comparison with, Dean Wade, I think we'll get to that one here at the next question, but I don't know if he's a true, center, but I don't know if he's a true number 4 guy like Dean. I think he probably leans a little more towards the 5 spot. Can shoot the ball. He can do everything. He is going to be one of those guys that can defend, can shoot the ball, can, get to the rim, do every, thing that Dean did. I think he's a little stronger though. He's got some more meat to him. He's taller, I believe. So, all of that, I think he'll be more competing with Davion. So I don't know if I really see them being out on the court at the same time too much. You look at guys at West Virginia, you've got Culver and you've got Oscar Tshiebwe, right? Those are Twin Towers. I don't ever see K-State having, for 30 minutes a game, having Landers and Bradford on the court at the same time, like Bob Huggins does with those guys. So I think maybe there's, they might experiment with it a little bit if 2 guys are in foul trouble, here or there, and they've got to have them on the court. Sure, it can happen if you're facing a team, maybe like West Virginia, that has those guys. Then maybe you bring in something like that just for the matchup for a game or two. But I don't know if I see them on the court together too much. And I hate to say it, but Lingard and Izagwu and Bradford and Landers, I don't see all of those guys, 2 years from now or whenever they would, someone's going to transfer, someone's going to leave. I think it's inevitable that that's probably going to happen at some point for whatever reason. But there's, not much of pieces of that pie to necessarily go around. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if Bruce Weber is comfortable with putting both those guys on the court at the same time. And that's just my speculation. As for Aminu, I think Indiana's probably the leader right now. But if it happens, and I think it's going to happen, where his season gets canceled or he decides to, commit early here at semester, which if it happens, will happen here in a matter of weeks, maybe a month at the most. So it's going to happen here pretty soon. I think Indiana's the front runner, but then after Indiana, I think K-State's got as good a chance as anyone. That's what Sean Harmon, his guardian, has told me, that K-State is right up in there. So, this was 2 weeks ago, and that's probably outdated with all the changes that have happened here with the Aminu. But as we say to hello to Fitz's dogs, there's Georgia's in the mix, kind of with that open scholarship spot. So we'll see what happens. I would say Indiana is the front runner. I think K-State's probably in second place with they're lukewarm with some of these other schools. Throughout his process, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give him maybe a 4 or 5. I think Indiana's, like I said, up there. But then after that, if something happens with them and things don't click, Bruce Weber might just swoop in here and, steal one away from everyone else. But until, I don't want to be pessimistic, but until it happens, there's always that reason for skepticism.
And KSU man had a follow up he asked it before I could get the thread locked, and after I got you questions. But he asked, how similar is Logan Landers' game to Dean Wade?
Yeah, that's mentioned it a little bit, but I think he's a little bigger, a little stronger, can do more of the Thomas Gibson type plays, the DJ Johnson type plays, getting big in there in the paint. I don't know if it'll be a ton of, like McCall Mayween, for example, where he's always dancing around and, putting on a circus act down there in the lane. I think he'll be strong with the ball. Can shoot the ball? Yes. Can he do all these other things? Yes. But I think he's, like I mentioned, probably more of a 5 player than Dean ever was. Next question from Add to Cart Cat if a safe and effective vaccine is developed, should college and professional athletes be required to take it? First responders and health personnel would probably get the vaccine first. Should athletes get the vaccine if there is a limited supply?
No. If there's a limited supply, they shouldn't be first in line by any means. I think they'll get it as it becomes available, and I would guess that most teams would probably get their hands on the batches, and they'd probably administer it all at one time to everybody. So I think that I don't know about saying they should be required to take it. I mean, if they don't want to, I guess they probably shouldn't be forced to, but I think it'd be smart to take it. And I don't want to make that sound like I'm anti-vaccine. I'm absolutely not, but I don't think you can force anybody to do anything.
I don't want the athletes to have it early, and here's why. As we all know, Tim Fitzgerald loves a good conspiracy theory.
Oh, boy.
I think this is how we get to the zombie apocalypse, right here. We started administering on a massive basis a not fully tested vaccine. And then we have The Walking Dead. Now, why I don't want athletes to have it is I do not want Wyatt Hubert or someone of his mass walking around as a zombie. What do you do with that? You can't. He's going to win. He's going to eat your brains. So no, the athletes shouldn't have it yet. Just give it to little
that's
people
your
first.
reason.
Give it to little people first to see if they turn into zombies, because if they do, we can kick their ass. That's my science. Trust the fifth science. That's what the motto is.
That's what you're worried about. You're not worried about InBath creating the zombie apocalypse.
No.
You're worried about this sole preventative vaccine.
InBath might start the zombie cow apocalypse, which, cows are walking around trying to eat your brains, and they're easy to get away with. You just tip them over.
Man, wouldn't the zombie cows sounds like a great single-A baseball team if Manhattan ever had something like that? That'd be fun.
Yeah. That's better than the mad cows, I think, the zombie cows.
Zombie cows.
Oh, yeah. I don't mind. There you go, Manhattan High. There's your new name.
Yeah.
How badass would that be to have your mascot be the zombie cows? Yeah.
Well,
For God's sakes. At least,
dude likes it.
At least you're not Topeka Seaman High School.
Oh, yeah. Wild.
So your high school has been named Seaman forever, and it turns out he's an exalted cyclops of the KKK. So all along you had a reason to get rid of the name of the high school, and yet generations have been Seaman High School. Those poor kids that are now adults, scarred for life. I got off on a tangent here, but I'm worried about them. Go Topeka North Vikings. Okay, that's it.
I think it's funny that KSNT a few years ago, Seaman played Bonner Springs, but they misspelled Bonner.
Oh boy.
Hold on. Okay, I got
There
it.
was an in missing. It was the greatest bottom line ticker I've ever seen in my life.
We have anything more?
We got one more.
Got a Big 12 question.
Hey, Ned.
Bring it on, K-Ned.
All righty, last question of the podcast. Are we nearing the end of the Gary Patterson era at TCU? Does he start to get the Snyder time to move on treatment?
Yeah, I think you're getting there real fast. Or real slow. I think it's getting there. In some ways, I think TCU has him on a higher pedestal because they wouldn't even be in this conference, and they know it without Gary Patterson. I think Gary will probably step away at some point here, as long as he's got a parachute into the future. I don't know. It's just it's weird to watch TCU not be as good defensively as you expect. I know they've had problems offense, but they're not very good on defense right now either. And you look around the conference, there's 4 teams in the top 25 defenses in the country. K-State's just played 2 of them. Remember that, folks. West Virginia and Oklahoma State are in the top 5 nationally. And I don't know what stat I was looking at, yards allowed per play or something. But Baylor and Texas are in there too. 2 more future opponents. Iowa State's got a really good defense, wasn't in there. Kansas State's defense has been playing great, wasn't in there. There's a lot of good defenses in this conference, and TCU is not recognized as one of them this year. Very weird.
Yeah, I think we probably are. He's probably reached his peak and he's on the down slope. I think it's just going to be a matter of time. How self-aware is Gary Patterson going to be about how good he is and how good his teams are? And I don't know if we'll get to a point where, where whoever the AD is, I can't think of who it is at TCU now. If they say, hey, I think it's time. I don't know if they'll do that like they did with Snyder at the end, but I feel like Gary Patterson is more self-aware than Bill Snyder is, I guess. And I think that TCU's lucky that Gary Patterson doesn't have a son that may or may not be qualified to coach a D1 football team.
I don't know. As a guy who has also reached his peak and is on the downslope, I'd like to congratulate Gary Patterson for having a much higher peak than I did. I got to the downslope and I looked back and said, I really thought that'd be higher. Huh. Really thought, yeah. I'm heading down. Here we go. I'm not stepping down. I will not be a candidate for TCU football or Wichita State basketball. I'm not going to do it.
Oh, yeah, I think you'd make a great Greg Marshall. You could be mean.
Yeah. Shut up.
Vouch for that.
Shut up. There we go. That's my Gary Marshall. That's weird. A lot of weird stuff going on in this pandemic. Firing a basketball coach days before week of the signing. Weird. Oh, well. Go Shockers. Obscene hand signal. That's it. That was it. Gilge, you got any final thoughts?
Hey, Gary Patterson's not as old as Snyder is, so I don't know if he's necessarily doing anything terrible to lose them their games. It's just that he's just not that good. Where I don't know if TCU fans are super frustrated with Patterson yet, because they've been inconsistent this year. It's been their biggest, flaw. They've won some games, right, but they've also just looked terrible in some games. So I think he is, of course, on the down slope along with you, Fitz, but he's I don't know. I still think he has a little bit of a leash left, just because of, you mentioned it, why TCU is in the Big 12, because of him. So we'll see what happens. But
maybe he deserves more credit to be compared to Snyder 1.0. Maybe the 04-05 range. We might be in 2004 K-State with TCU.
That's a pretty good point. Step away for 3 years, the Frogs suck, come back.
He's already got a trophy. Or not a trophy, a statue. That's similar to having the stadium named after you, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can come back.
Okay. We voted, Gary, you can retire and come back. This full Snyder treatment.
And Ron Prince is the next coach at TCU. Heard it here first.
Don't do it, Froggies. Don't do it. Don't. That's it for this week's edition of the PowerCat Questions podcast as we head into the off week. So no pregame podcast, no postgame podcast. How would I do that without a game? But there will be other podcasts coming. I get to record another Sources podcast this week, so it's ready to run for next week. It'll be very exciting. Hank Jacobs, Director of Football Administration, Kansas State, will be next week's guest on the Sources podcast that I record this week. It's so confusing. This job is difficult.
PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
It's the UEFA Champions League on Paramount Plus. Europe's top club soccer tournament. Champions versus champions. The best teams facing off in the knockout rounds. Magnificent! And it all takes place
while you're filling out financial reports at work, in the middle of your day, in the middle of your week. So use that second screen. Call in sick. Do whatever you got to do to tune in Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Nobody watches the UEFA Champions League like us. Knockout rounds begin February 13th on CBS and stream live on Paramount Plus.